Welcome to another episode of the Global Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Capillo. Today we have Andres Bernal. He is a Dominican-born real estate investor, entrepreneur, and founder of Sky Circle LLC, as well as a former professional tennis player who built an 8-figure real estate portfolio from the ground up. After immigrating to the United States with just $500, Andres purchased his first property in 2016 and quickly transformed that single deal into a powerful wealth-building engine. Today, he has completed over 50 property flips between just 2024 and 2025. He owns 60 rental units across Section 8 housing, student rentals, and traditional tenants. He's based in Connecticut, near where I started investing in real estate. So it's great to have him on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. We've had a few professional athletes on the show, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself, both personally and professionally, before 2016 and getting involved in real estate investing?
Yeah, so I played tennis, my whole life since I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I went to college on a scholarship. After that, I decided to move to the United States and to pursue my dream of playing professional tennis, and I did. Thankfully, I played for almost 2 years, and it was great, a lot up and down. And before 2016, real estate was always in my head. My godfather is a big builder in Dominican Republic. And I see he has a nice house. He has nice bathrooms and he has this nice cars. It was always in the back of my head. And one day, I think everybody starts because of the burnout. Nobody wakes up and say, I'm going to invest in real estate. So I was teaching tennis at the time and 50, 60 hours a week. And I'm like, this is not the American dream. This is not what I came for. And then I started to look online and I found stocks, businesses, and real estate. So let me just see. And I got very curious. Then I got obsessed to learn. I got a couple courses, and I will say I just started. When I started that, I was 2015. And I bought my first condo in 2014, but I started investing in 2016. So I always had the bug, and I'm so glad that I did.
Was there a reason other than your family member being involved with real estate to choose real estate when you got here? Or did it just – it's funny with real estate when you speak to people about you're investing in real estate, if that's just what you leave it with, people will tell you they'll know someone. Everybody knows someone that makes a bunch of money in real estate, whether they own whatever they're doing in there. Someone makes a lot of money that someone knows, and it's just kind of something I've found over the years of talking to people about real estate investing. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think there's always a family member, as an uncle, godfather, your parents, and I think that my godfather never talked about the business itself because I think he never wanted to talk about business and the money he had made. He wanted to be recognized as a human being and person, So we had, again, he played tennis. That's how my dad met him. He became my godfather later on. They are brothers at this point. But yeah, I think I saw firsthand from him and my dad buying a commercial building when I was living in the Dominican Republic. And he always tells me it's an effort now, but you will see everything later. And, when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, you don't understand that. But I think it's very important that for your listeners, if you have a son, if you have a daughter, or if you have someone, even a nephew that is growing up and you're investing in real estate, always don't be afraid to talk to them about it, because regardless if they go to Hollywood or they are attorneys or they are technicians or plumbers or whatever, investing in real estate can give you the choice to retire early. I could retire, go anywhere, live anywhere, but you have to plant the seed now, and you have to be able to pass that torch along. Don't keep it to yourself. People think that investing in real estate, when you talk about it, is boring, but try to make it fun and try to make it for your kids. Try to make it if you put $1 here, you're going to get this back. Try to make it super simple. And I mean, my kid is almost 3 years old. Next year I'm starting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's talk about what you kind of have going on now. You built a team to flip 50 properties in 2 years. Now, flipping properties, I mean, it's definitely it's an intense business. I mean, especially if you're doing 25 of those a year. Can you talk to us a little bit about the team you've put together and how your team looks now for doing all these flips? Yeah.
So we have right now about 12 contractors, and they are not specialized. So they are, carpenters, painters, basic plumbing, basic electric. And then I hire everything out. The way that I built my team was like I hire one person, and then I hire another one, and then I asked them if there's any other friends that it's a contractor are looking for jobs, and then we start growing. And now that's on the flipping side. On the rental side, we have 4 team members right now. They work part time and they manage all 60 units. So I think that people want to start a big team, or people want to start a team and they don't know where to start. But the easiest way is just to ask. Where you can ask your friend and family, ask on social media. Hey, I'm looking for this. And even if you don't have, I'm actually got invited to speak in an event, and they want me to talk about how to build your team. And even if you don't have, let's say, the amount of flips that we have, and let's say you have 10 units or 5 units, you can hire someone to do work on the 10 units. The same person can do any flips, and then the same person you can get a GC license if you have experience, and you can start, doing work for other people. And that's why sometimes I do that when the season is a little slow. So there's many things that you can do with a contractors team.
No, that makes perfect sense. There was 2 of the larger investors when I started investing in New Britain, and both of them were contract. They always did flips on the side because they'd have their teams, their crews, right? And they'd be contractors. And I always found that as a great way of doing it, because one of the issues I always found when I did a few flips, and then also when we had our small portfolio growing it, the thing was that it was getting having the help to do the work. You know what I mean? Consistently there, and the amount of time you spent just to get handymen in there and do stuff. So obviously, the more work you give them, the more consistent you can bring them on. So it's different if you're like, hey, you're working over at our flip over here. Hey, at 3 p.m., can you head over here and do this faucet and do this and that? And you're like,
that's exactly what we do.
That's how it has to that. When I saw them doing it, and they would give me tips, because you could still I would contact them. I had all their numbers if I needed something additional, and they would always be helpful. But I always found that I was like, that's the way. You have to have those people full time. You've got to tear the Band-Aid and get them in there full time, and really you got to have the flips really to keep your other portfolio going, or you're just going to be all day long trying to find a person to show up, trying to find someone to do this, paying full retail price, yellow page pricing type thing. And you'll never make any money doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's also another way a lot of people don't know is sometimes there's not new contractors, but they started a new business. They've been working for other people and they start a new business, and they might have 1 or 2 guys, but the season is really slow. So they are willing to take sometimes an hourly pay until they can get more jobs. So that's another way to start building your team. You can say, hey, I don't flip, maybe full time right now, but I have jobs here and there. Can you, and just ask if you can pay them on an hourly basis. And when they're slow, especially the winter, they will be so grateful. They might not be available for you, 24/7, but they're going to be available when you call them.
Yeah. If it's emergency, it's a little different. But if it's something where we're flipping a unit or something like that, you want someone to come in. That's where it kind of works. And the more business you give them, the more flexible, I guess, they are around your wants and needs, as I found over the years, which makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? It's like having a bigger client. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk about right now. You're flipping properties. I know you also have some small multis. I started with 3-family properties, 3 and 4s and 5-unit properties. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have going on in Connecticut now for maybe some of your long-term holds outside of your flips?
Yeah, so I own about 60 units, maybe 58, 59, but it's mostly 3 units. I have maybe like 4 units. And then I have a few duplexes, and then I have a bunch of single family. And the reason why I have single family is because I do a lot of student rentals throughout. I am in 3 universities in Connecticut. So it's definitely a great business. And yeah,
Let's talk about the student rentals. It's not something, I mean, I've had people on before tell me about like student rental developments, but hands on the, kind of boots on the ground type student rental as you being a manager too with those in single family, not an apartment complex. Tell us a little bit about how you structure leases, how you do, because usually the person that's signing in the lease is not the person living there, or the person you're really, that has the weight behind signing the lease is not the person living there. So how do you structure applications? How do you structure leases with this? How have you become, say, more successful over the years of doing it, and like maybe adjusting how you rent to students?
Yeah, I love student rentals. And the way that I structure my leases are, typically I have 4 to 5 students, and the parents co-sign or somebody related to them. And we verify all the parents' credit score, at least one of them, just to make sure that they can pay. I have never missed a rent payment since 2016. Not even late, not even 1 month late. Because again, most of the times I rented to people from 3 universities, and they're more on the affluent. I mean, these are colleges that, it's 60, 70,000. So the chances that they don't pay me, it's very little. So I don't target community college. I target more growing universities. The other thing that I do, I keep a very tight management as far as, parties and all that. Like my kids try to not create any troubles. I had never been called by the police. And that's a big myth in the student rentals. I tend to rent to girls, because you know where the party starts, right? It's the boys' house. But you cannot discriminate. So I don't discriminate. I just try to target more the girls section. And my advertising is also, for the most part, I don't have to advertise, because what I do is I keep renewing with the students. And when they graduate or they study abroad or anything, I always found tenants, because I have such a large network where I am. There's so many Facebook groups now where I am that you can post and you get people reaching out. Now, the key for student rentals is timing. And this is the timing and location. So location is, you want to be I want to be 10 minutes walking from the university, no farther than that. Why? You will eliminate parking. You don't have to have parking. You don't have to have transportation. They just walk. And then the second thing is that I try to always, what was the second thing? So what was the location? Just the location, so 10 minutes away. And then I try to always rent to students that other people know. So I ask, right. So one of the things that I do is I ask all my other students, hey, do you know this person? No. Can you give me a reference? Because sometimes you get students and then you get a group and then you don't know what you're doing. And I have had the experience where even the students have provoked a lot of distress in my management, style. So I always look for references for people that they know. And if they don't have anything bad to say, then obviously I tend to rent it to them.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's a great way of doing it. Yeah, the walking when I lived off campus in college, the parking was always a pain. So if you lived off really close, you could walk. It made it so much better. You know what I mean? And it's obviously you can dramatically charge more for that rent as well.
Yeah. All my student rentals are within 10 minutes. All of them.
So for some of your long-term rentals, I was reading that you work with Section 8 properties, and it's not something that I've worked with before. I've tried working with Section 8 one time in New Britain, like Housing Authority, and it didn't go over that well. So much time it took to get apartments approved, and then there was like an inspection list of a couple small things. Anyway, so what would you say? I mean, when I speak to Section 8 investors, the main benefit I always hear is the guaranteed rent. But what are some of the drawbacks of working with Section 8 housing over in your kind of history of doing it?
Yeah. The first thing is Section 8 is not guaranteed. That's for me is one of the biggest myths. Why? Because if you fail inspection, they will not bring you the check. And inspection can fail by carbon monoxide or like smoke detector, or even like they don't want any locks in any bedroom. So like even very simple things. So, and that's one of the drawbacks in my opinion, with Section 8, which is the inspections. Now, if we're talking about that is more secure and is more guaranteed rent in the sense of like Section 8 will pay, the government will pay. Yes, absolutely. And also the tenant portion, because Section 8 typically doesn't cover 100%. Most of the time they cover, I will say, between 90 and 95% of the rent. The portion of the tenant, they don't mess with it, because if it's $100, $150, they don't want to lose their vouchers. So they always pay, in my opinion. I have maybe like 22 Section 8, and they're great. The other thing is the level of education that they have. It's a little bit tricky to gauge if they're going to keep your apartment in good shape or not. Because for me, the level of education of a person means, for me, how clean they are, how they're gonna treat your apartment. So you would never have, at least in Connecticut, you will never have trouble renting to Section 8, but you have to kind of educate them as much as you can, like any other tenant. But Section 8, stating the obvious, like you gotta keep the apartment clean. You cannot leave the trash here and all that. So I think. A lot of people don't like Section 8 because they have to work a little bit harder. But as an investor, you got to choose what you're going to go for.
True. Yeah. You have, what are you going to do? You're going to deal with the government a little bit more and have them inspect everything and kind of, roll the dice every time they come through, because there's some things that you can't control or that you're going to pick out that you don't know what they're going to pick up on when they come in. And the second thing too is, when rents due, if you're just renting to a traditional 12-month tenant, I mean, you have that too, that you don't know if you're going to get paid. So it's one or the other. In my story with Section 8, I was renting it. It was February, and my property manager was, they came through, we waited 3 weeks for this inspection. And then they said they want me to paint parts of the foundation because there's a little bit of chipping paint. And we're like, it's actually impossible to paint outside in February. So,
yeah.
In Connecticut. So
even
just
in
letting
March,
people.
even now. Yeah. The weather has been cold, and even now in March,
So it was like the apartment was beautiful. Everything was great. This apartment, real hardwood floors, had pocket door. It was beautiful, this one. And the thing that was that, everything inside was perfect. We did such a great job. But then and it's not like they're going to like circle back that day after you like change those locks or put up that, CO2, it's going to be like, it's weeks down the road. You know what I mean? And then you don't know if you're getting the same person. You don't know what they might pick up on something else. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult game in that sense, but I've met a number of different Section 8 investors who swear by it.
Yeah. So now there is Section 8 is hiring third parties now, and for a long time, and those third parties just do housing. And I have great relationship with those third parties because they know that I own a good amount of units, and like if every year we increase it. For the most part, they never deny my increase, even if it's not a lot, but they never denied. If I have an inspection and something fails, because they know me and I have built that relationship, they come in the next week. Like if I call them, if it's something quick. Now I don't have experience with all the housing authorities throughout Connecticut. I have experience maybe with 5. And they have always been great. Now, when you have housing departments that cover so many regions and so many tenants and sometimes like a whole county, it's impossible. So yeah, it all depends. What is your what kind of third party when the tenant moves in bring with them? It's working with them.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's one of those things of it's an unknown kind of scale of economies that you have there. By having more units, you are getting a favorable, more, a relationship with who you're working with. And that could be with the city, that could be with the Section 8. Can you just give like a quick overview and we'll move on. But with Section 8, if listeners don't know about how Section 8 works, there's housing authorities, there's people that are getting on a wait list. Can you explain kind of from the renter's view, kind of how that works in a nutshell, high level?
So Section 8 is when the government subsidizes their rent. The government pays for their rent because they show that they're low income, they're low income people. And they go based out of their tax returns and out of every income. So when they prove that they're low income, they are on the list. And when there's funding available, they either get the voucher, which is a voucher is just a check, let's say, that goes directly to the landlord. They don't see it, but goes directly to the landlord, and then they pay a portion of the rent depending on the level of income. So the less money they make at their jobs, the more money typically covers. Now, Section 8, they don't always guarantee that if you make less money, they're going to cover more. They just give you an amount, and that amount is what you have available. So the tenant, for the most part, is the one who have to find the housing with that voucher or check, and then they go and then they make an agreement with the landlord to see how much they're going to be paying or how much it will be covered.
It makes perfect sense. It's also one thing we found out is that there's other programs out there, maybe they're not from the government, that cover people's rents. We had one in Connecticut. We had one house, 3-family, we had people that were battered women from Prudence Crandall, which is a facility or house in New Britain, Connecticut. And the thing though was that they would pay for the tenants' rents through there, and they never missed and stuff like that. So that gives you, for women to get back on their feet, we would offer them a place to live, everything like that. And they would cut the checks directly to us. You know what I mean? So, and then they'd have to pay back. So there's different programs. If you know your area well, there's different programs that you can get involved with that are going to be a little bit more guaranteed, let's say, of rent collection versus maybe a C-class tenant that is, like most of them are sadly paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. You gotta screen really well, especially these times. In the winter, I screen more thoroughly, even though I have less renters. But that's one of the things. Because of that, we have almost 100 tenants, and it's very rarely. We have done maybe one eviction. We try to work with a tenant. For the most part, if we put tenants in there, there's like a 95% chance that they will pay, according to our records. But it's because we screen thoroughly, and we rather kind of wait for that tenant to be a good fit for our properties.
No, that's great. That's one benefit that, if you manage your own property, so you're renting to your own tenants. But the thing though is that for some newer investors, they're in a rush to get someone in that unit to try to cover their mortgage for that month, whatever it might be. And I got caught in there before, you know what I mean? Putting tenants in, and I bet you did too. That's why you have tight screen. No one just starts with tighter screening.
Oh my God. I can tell you so many stories if you want to hear them about horror. Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you have money sitting in the stock market and you're worried about it? Or worse, you have money sitting at the bank, not keeping up with inflation? My name is Charles Carrillo, founder and managing partner of Harborside Partners. And since 2006, I've been investing my money and my family's money into income-producing properties. These are real assets, real properties with real addresses that produce real cash flow. At Harborside Partners, we provide passive investors who love real estate with a turnkey investing solution. If you want to put your money to work in real estate but can't find deals, don't have the time to get funding, and the last thing that productive people want to do is manage real estate. We find the deals, we fund the deals, and we manage the tenants, the termites, and the properties. Partner with us at investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com. Go to investwithharborside.com. If you love real estate, you like the idea of passive income, and believe that income-producing properties will appreciate over time, go to investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com.
So the screening is super important. And also it's even more important for screening. So once you hand over those keys, you know what I mean? The tenants now are receiving, they're a renter of yours or a tenant, and they have so many more laws and regulations now that you have it. So you have to really vet them. And we would do it kind of not as thoroughly as we do it now when I was starting out. And I had a friend that was a real estate agent, broker in New York City. And he would tell me how thorough, because you can't evict the people. You know what I mean? So he would say people would come with a whole year of rent and they would turn them down, right? They wanted to make sure that they're from certain states that they could collect money from in a judgment. They could do this, they did that. They had all these signers on it. And it was just something you're like, oh, wow. It's like when you're getting in the states where it's much more difficult, let's say more tenant friendly, which I would consider Connecticut and most of the Northeast, that's something that you have to be very thorough, because once they're in there for at least 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And once they are in there, in order to get them out, it's easier to give them some money for them to move out than going through an eviction process.
Exactly.
And if you are in the winter, forget about it. You're not going to get them out. And what bothers me the most about tenants that don't pay is that the fight that they gave you and the entitlement that they have. Like, okay, let's say that you lose for example, real example. I have a tenant. I have a 4-unit in Enfield, Connecticut, about an hour away from where I live. That tenant had the husband moved out and they were getting divorced. And she couldn't pay. She was pregnant and she had a kid. It was December rent. I told my team, give her a break. Like, do not mention anything about eviction in December. It's cold. It's Christmas. Like, she has it hard on herself. And then in January, we come back and we talk about it. And comes January and we said, hey, Amanda, unfortunately, you got to move out, but this is what we're going to do. And then we work them with her to help her to actually move out. And she moved out, but you have tenants where they know their loss and they want to fight. And at the end of the day, I feel terrible for them, because as a landlord, let's say that an eviction costs you 10 grand or 15 grand. Of course, your cash flow can be done, but for them, it's on the record. Pretty much, I don't know if it's forever, but for a long time. And that they don't know how bad it is. Like, no landlord, I don't care what the eviction was for. I don't rent to people that have been evicted. I'm sorry, I don't want to take the risk. And I say it publicly because I don't know. I don't know what happened. And if a person was willing to maybe fight for an eviction, then what comes to me? So yeah.
Yeah. I'm all about second chances. It's just not on my dime. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, as I've been burnt so many times on that. So, but that's a whole separate podcast and together about being burnt on tenants. Yeah. But, that's what the thing we always used was cash for keys. And I was always amazed at how I had a number in my mind and a tenant would usually always come below that. You know what I mean? So it will just be like you have a number in your mind of what I'm willing to give this person. You know what I mean? When this place is cleaned out, and they'll give you a number and you're like, perfect, let's do it. And I'll even give you more if you're out by this day and like I can walk through. And
yeah, I'm actually curious. What are the numbers they gave you back that day in Florida?
Years in the day. So if I had an apartment that say was like $1,000 or something, you have some people that say like $500. You know what I mean? I have some that say, and you're like, like from your lost rent and stuff, I'm willing to give you like 2 months of rent. You know what I mean? Like without a question, in cash. You know what I mean? And pretty much. You come back on this day, like we'll keep in contact because I don't want to be ghosted. I'm going to give you 2 more weeks, right? Or 1 week to find out what's going on, right? I don't want to come back in 2 weeks and all your stuff's still there. You know what I mean? Like I want to walk through. I have cash in hand. You're going to sign like a lease termination. You're going to sign this receipt, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And we're Sophie, they're like, oh, they kicked me out or something like this. You know what I mean? Like, no, well, you signed the lease termination. Here's your receipt for the cash, whatever it might be. And then they're good to go. But it's usually like you'd have people that come back like 1 month, you know what I mean? Because they already owe you money. So most people I found were not really like juicing it, you know what I mean? And I've heard really bad stuff, but like I said, our tenant screening was very good, you know what I mean? But you find that tenants would go bad, especially in C class. There would be a set time and it would usually end up negatively, you know what I mean? Whatever it was, where people they just go out in certain properties, like we were talking about before, are just magnets for bad tenants, you know what I mean? And I could never figure out, like you'd figure it out, like we were talking about before when I bought my second property, it was like a couple blocks this way and it did so much better than this one over here. Same type of quiet street, everything like that. But ones that had a certain number of bedrooms, you would have a higher retention. You know what I mean? And I found out that when we were renting 3 families, 3-bedroom houses with, enough parking in back, not like huge parking lots, but like enough parking in back for 3 or 4 cars, you know what I mean? For those 3 units, you kept people for many years and your turnover was so much less. And I think everybody has to figure that out for their area. Yeah. If we were in like a more expensive area or a more downtown area, maybe 1-bedrooms would be it. But my dad taught me years back, he's like, in this area, you have to buy with parking. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. You typically do not want to have tenants in this area that don't have cars. You know what I mean? So these things go with every area and it's different. Again, if you're going into more downtown area of like a major city, yes, there's going to be a lot of 1-bedrooms. Parking's not really a big thing, all this type of stuff. But, your transportation's much better. But I think it's like, there's not really a way of knowing this before you buy property. It's kind of like, buy a property, figure out where it is, and buy a property. And like I know we were talking about before, you were selling some of your properties that you said were having issues performing, but you had some other ones that were, cash flow machines.
Yeah, I with me and my partner decided to sell a few that have a lot of equity and their cash flow is not great because we bought it, I would say, at a very good price. But the rate that we have, 7.8, 7.9, it just doesn't make sense to hold, let's just say $150,000 in equity and make $700 in cash flow, plus all the issues and all the problems. And one of the things that I tell people that you got to calculate what is your return of equity to. And it's like holding that equity down versus and the velocity of money. What can you do? Even if we decide to, let's say, put it this way, let's say that we have made that year $10,000 in cash flow, net profit, cash flow, right? So even if we sell and we make $150,000 and we had to pay taxes on it and we have to pay realtor's commission and all that, you still need 10 years to make that money. And all the foreseen issues that property can cause because it's an older home. Connecticut everything is very old. So all the unforeseen. So yes, we put about $120,000 into the property, but the boilers are okay, but they can, So it's not for me. I rather you bring that money and buy a better property. Doesn't have to be bigger, but it has to be a better condition, better location, or something bigger that makes more sense.
That's perfect sense. That's one thing I was going to ask you, because with older properties, it's normal. The first property I bought was like 1904, bought another one 1900, 1906, 1910, whatever. So you're buying a property that's 120 years old. When you're going into these properties, let's say it's a good location. You're owning a property. It's been owned for 40, 50 years from the same person. It needs, 6 figures of rehab. Are you going to go in there initially and, take care of all the big things? Or are you going through and like really fully renovating it? Obviously it's all numbers dependent, but what is your initial plan going forward so you can avoid some of these headaches? Because there's everything can go wrong on these properties.
The mindset that I have is I have a framework in my head. First, you have to do the things that you should do. So mechanicals is something that you should do. Now, if the boiler, for example, it will last 3 to 4 years according to the HVAC technician, then I wouldn't replace it if it's not necessarily right now. Why? Because those 3 or 4 years could be 1 year, actually, or could be 10 more years. It's very unpredictable. But if you have a hole in the roof, if your siding is falling apart, if you don't have good, gutters, if your there's a risk of fire because you have knob and tube electric, then those are the things that we address. So first, the things that you should do. Second, the things that you could do. And those are the things that, can we put granite or quartz, etc. And because we want to bring the value up of the property and the rents. And then the third thing is the thing that we can do. Unnecessary things that if the budget allows, we'll do. Is it Trex decking will make it more appealing to A+? Is it a little bit of a dog park or dog area that we can have? Things like that. So, which I will say you must tackle the things that you should do. And this goes with flipping too. People go on the houses and they're thinking, oh, this has so much potential. And they're thinking about what kind of cabinets they're going to put and what kind of tile, what kind of flooring. But they forget that they have an up and tube. They have mold in the attic. They have the roof it's old. And then they start renovating all these things. And then when they're trying to sell, the ARV is not there because the roof is old, or they cannot sell, or the buyer backs out because so many issues in the house, mechanical wise. So, yeah, that's how we approach any renovation.
No, that makes perfect sense. If no one knows that's listening what knob and tube is, you should Google it. It's amazing that they put electricity through these things, and you'll see them in old places because they won't take them out. They just will go around them and disconnect them, but go around them. But you can see them like on old rafters and basements in Connecticut. It's funny that when I moved down to Florida, I would talk to people down here and they would tell me that 1960s was old, and I was like, oh, 1960s is brand new.
This is you're having a baby. Absolutely.
But yeah, there's you have to really go through and all your systems after like 40, 50 years, they have to be all your plumbing has to be done. All of, obviously you've probably already redone your furnace or your boilers multiple times during that time, hot water heaters every 10 years, maybe more. So the thing is, like, these things are they need it. And the problem is that it's not raising rent. So you have to make sure it's really in those numbers, but it's important. It's really important, and especially having these issues, especially during the winter when, it gets really cold outside. You have to make sure all this stuff is working. So
yeah,
a lot of great information there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now, if you have investors that they'll probably start and they maybe want to partner with someone, this is one thing that is always kind of, which way do people go? And what would be your advice for investors looking to partner with another investor, say on a future deal or maybe on their first deal? How do you go into that kind of situation?
Do you want to talk about partnerships or like raising capital?
I would say partnerships as an active investor.
Okay. So yeah. So I have right now I have one partner that I own one house with, and she's great. She's more the money gal, and she's more the numbers. I'm more the management partner. And then I have a partner where I own half of my portfolio, if not more. And I have had partnerships, with flips and creative financing and all that. I think that my first advice is to start small as you can. And when I say small, buy that single family, buy that duplex, buy maybe that triplex. Do not try to go into bigger deals, more, tough to get rid of, if we have to exit it. I will say you got to have the same mission and vision, and that is so important. Your mission can be the same. And I had a partnership where my mission was the same, but my vision was different. So my mission was obviously to make, let's say to make money and have good properties and all that. My vision was that this is going to be a long-term hold. And my partner wanted to, they agreed at the time, but then a year later they were like, we need money quicker. This is just a drip in that faucet. We need to, be flowing more. And I always advise, start small and try to really gauge what their intentions are and what their vision is. Like, they have to be aligned. And if it doesn't feel right, if in your inside, like in your gut, it doesn't feel right, then just don't do it.
It's a lot of good information. The first person I bought a house from, he was telling me that with his first partner, and there's a large age gap, they had that issue. And then you had to find another partner, and something like, oh yeah, the guy has money. It's perfect. Well, the guy has money, but he wants to retire. He's not looking for like to work with this 25-year-old that's like trying to roll everything for the next 25 years of their life.
Yeah. And also like partnerships can be treated as also like seasons. So for example, right now, Charles, your friends from high school or college or whatever might not be your friends now because you guys are at a different point of your life. So when you're partnering with someone that could be a season, could be a flip. And we're in and out. And if we don't like it, we're going to be in and out. And within 6 months, we can get along within 6 months. If the worst that could happen, I mean, treat it like okay, maybe I can do something quick with you. I have friends that have, let's say, a lot of money that I could flip a house. They've told me, hey, I have this amount of money and we can flip a house, and they don't want to be hands-on. So it's perfect. Would I invest in a long-term rental? Absolutely not. Because I understand that this takes time. They don't.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I like the idea too of suggesting people to buy smaller properties first. And the benefit with those two, like you mentioned, you went over it quickly, but the liquidity on it, it's something where you can easily refinance these small properties under 4 units or less. And you're also able to easily sell them if they're in good condition. They're easily sold through FHA, and there's lots of buyers since house hacking is now a cool thing. It's something that you can easily sell these properties to people much more easier than selling a 5-unit, where now we're going to commercial financing. We've got all this stuff, and it's a much more professional, let's say, well-capitalized investor buyer that you need to have. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, one of the things I want to say is, what are common mistakes you see real estate investors make today?
Do you want to talk about rentals or flipping?
I just say whatever you want to say. I mean, whatever you see for just mistakes that real estate investors are making in whatever it's quick flips or long-term rentals.
So the biggest mistakes that I've seen still today, and it hurts my heart, on rental properties is not underwriting their deal well. And when I say is majority of new investors, this is what they do. They say, okay, I'm going to make this amount of rent. This is going to be my mortgage, insurance, taxes and interest, whatever. And then I'm going to set aside a little bit for maintenance, and a little bit for, I see the other day, a little bit for like the water and the management. And then, they're not accounting any landscaping or snow removal, any capital expenditures that they're going to be spending in a near future. They're not accounting water, which is like the most basic. They're not accounting things that are so obvious that are going to happen. Like it's 100% sure that it will happen at some point in the house that, you have to repair. And when they're talking about social media, yes, I'm making $1,500 in cash flow. I'm like, that looks more like $450. The thing is, like, you don't see it. And I kind of want to say something to them. If they're close to me, I will say something because I want to help them. But I have come across where, like, I want to help them, but I don't want to sound arrogant or like I'm envious of them. So if they're truly my friends, I will help them. Whether they want to talk to me later on, that's fine. But I know that that's sort of like my call, and they can take my advice or not. When I talk about flipping, I will say taking renovations takes more money and more time than you think. And also ARV is not as high as you think. You gotta be conservative. The more conservative in those numbers, the better. And one little miscalculation on the ARV and seasonality can make you lose money. And I've seen that. I've lived that. So yeah.
A lot of great advice there. How can our listeners learn more about you and your business?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram is my name, Andres Bernal, but instead of an L at the end is a 1. I'm also on Facebook, like my name, Andres Bernal. And I got a few things that I cannot wait to release. I also wrote a book. It's on Amazon. It has done really well, way better than I thought it was going to do. It's called Born to Retire Young. It's basically the simple tactical framework to retire in less than 10 years. through real estate, and I'm writing my flipping second book. Very, again, tactical, no BS, no fluff, just what exactly you need to do to make money in this business.
Okay. We'll put those links to the show notes. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to connecting with you here in the near future.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hi guys, it's Charles from the Global Investors Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in getting involved with real estate, but you don't know where to begin, set up a free 30-minute strategy call with me at schedulecharles.com. That's schedulecharles.com. Thank you.